I remember playing this game called 4v4 Arashi, an anime soccer game on the Game Boy Advance. One of the final opponents was Team China, whose impeccable defense prevented their opponents from ever touching the ball. Oh man, most of you have no idea how funny that is. No one has as much faith in China as Japan does. Anyway, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Welcome back to part 2 of our series on Japanese-made Chinese movies. Last time, we explored Japan's connection with ancient China and the love for Hong Kong cinema. This time, we step it up, diving into Japan's collaboration with Hong Kong and its cinematic reconciliation with China. There's a lot to cover, so let's finally unpack the title of this series and learn to be our best. As promised, let's talk about Sister Street Fighter. This 1974 kung fu movie is a spin-off of the Street Fighter film series. It's often seen as Japan's answer to Enter the Dragon, as both follow a martial artist infiltrating a crime syndicate to seek revenge for a sibling. Now, when I say this is a kung fu movie, I really do mean kung fu. Protagonist Li Honglong, Tina for short, is a half-Chinese, half-Japanese fighter from Shaolin, but not the Shaolin in China. You see, Japan has its own Shaolin. It's pronounced Shaolin in Japanese, but it's the same exact name. There, they practice a martial art called Shorinji Kempo, founded in 1947 by Do Shin-so, a former Japanese spy who studied under Chinese masters while living in China. After the war, Do Shin-so returned to Japan and began teaching what he had learned, crafting Shorinji Kempo. So, in a sense, Shorinji Kempo is a Chinese-born Japanese martial art, which is fitting for Tina. After learning her brother has gone missing, Tina heads for Yokohama, the city of Chinese immigrants. From there, the film settles into a rhythm. Tina meets a new ally, they get ambushed by the mafia, and together they fight back. Rinse and repeat. With the help of her new friends, Tina reaches the final boss, a walking reminder that this is a soft remake of Enter the Dragon. Instead of a Bruce Lee flying kick, these two do a silly ass jump and start doing BJJ in the air. The bad guy dies and the movie immediately ends. Gotta love it when old movies do this. Now, if you are familiar with kung fu films, Sister Street Fighter might not seem that special. But remember, this was 1974, just a year after Enter the Dragon, yet she's already pulling a Jackie Chan before Jackie Chan was even famous. The movie can feel a bit repetitive with all the fights, but the abundance of martial arts also shows how much Japan loved kung fu. Indeed, Sister Street Fighter was successful enough to spawn 2 sequels, putting it on par with the main Street Fighter series. It seems so strange for Japan to like kung fu, considering its most prominent on-screen characteristic is that it beats up the Japanese. Fists of Fury, in particular, was the 7th highest-grossing film in Japan that year. Just why? The answer is really simple. Fists of Fury is popular in Japan for the same reason Inglourious Basterds is popular in Germany. We all hate fascists. When Fists of Fury hit Japanese theaters, audiences didn't identify with the ridiculous villains. In a firmly anti-war society, there was zero sympathy for the warmongers. We can see that in the 1975 martial arts flick The Killing Machine, which dramatized the life of Do Shin-so, the previously mentioned founder of Shorinji Kempo. The film depicts him as a patriot, beating up Chinese soldiers, American soldiers, the Yakuza, Japanese cops, and importantly, Japanese soldiers for kidnapping women. He is patriotic, but not blindly loyal. His only fault is joining the war. Upon realizing he's been used by the military, dude shoots up the office. That must be cathartic for the audience back then. In short, to the Japanese audience, Fist of Fury wasn't fighting the Japanese, it was fighting imperialism, and everyone can get behind that. But there's more to Kung Fu's popularity than that. As mentioned in our last video, in the 60s, Hong Kong actually looked up to Japan. As explained in the book Hong Kong Connections, Hong Kong action films of the 1970s took many stylistic elements from samurai movies, including the warrior spirit and the abundance of blood. It was a cultural exchange. Japan made Sister Street Fighter as a remake of an American film set in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong made Broken Oath, an unofficial remake of Lady Snowblood, directed by South Korean director Jung Chang-hwa. Finally, Korea makes an appearance. Other examples include Vengeance, featuring judo, and Hapkido, which features, well, Hapkido. For Japanese filmgoers, Hong Kong movies probably felt like a fresh take on a familiar formula, and that mix made them wildly popular. Here's where things got very interesting. It was the 1970s, Japanese cinema was still echoing its golden age, while Hong Kong was beginning to rise. For a brief moment, the two stood as equals. And with equality came collaboration, which resulted in an interesting relic, Zatoichi and the One-Armed Swordsman. For context, the One-Armed Swordsman was a hugely popular Hong Kong wuxia hero, while Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman, was a Japanese folk icon with a long-running film series. In the 70s, they were household names, so this was a legendary crossover. It was a match of the century. It was the clash of cultures. It was blind versus one-armed. The plot brings them together against a gang of criminals, but due to the language barrier, they are tricked into seeing each other as assassins. The misunderstanding ends in tragedy. They don't pussyfoot around the final duel at all. The final duel is brutal and decisive. One actually kills the other. I'm not gonna tell you who wins, you'll have to watch the movie to find out. Let's just say that the fact that they could have been friends reminds me a lot of the Chinese-Japanese relations. And that's the broader social context behind Sister Street Fighter. Hong Kong was learning from Japan, and Japan was learning from Hong Kong. The line between Kung Fu and Karate wasn't so easy to draw. And how appropriate, as Karate itself came from Okinawa, born from local martial arts blended with Chinese Kung Fu. We are so much more connected than we seem. So I was gonna make fun of the Chinese Football Association website, but then I got pissed because I was reminded that last year China lost to Japan 0-7. Are you f***ing kidding me? If you want to defeat the Chinese national football team, you need two things: 11 high school kids to form a club, and a website to show your legitimacy. That's why you need Squarespace. Social media won't cut it in China, but your website is accessible anywhere. No accounts needed, no limits imposed. With Squarespace, you can tailor your website however you want. Start with a template or build from scratch. You are not limited by word count or image size. Squarespace even formats your website for mobile devices automatically. All you need to do is start your free trial at squarespace.com/AskInTheCinema. Use the code AskInTheCinema and you can get 10% off your first purchase. Your free trial offers all the tools you need. You can tinker to your heart's content. So, if you have a football club, a chess club, or even a nightclub, you should start a website. Visit squarespace.com/AskInTheCinema, and remember, never talk football to a Chinese dude. I saved the best for last, because The Go Masters, released in 1982, is truly something special. This is a World War II drama built around the game of Go, a traditional board game beloved in both China and Japan. A fun fact about Go is that the two countries play with slightly different rules, but the strategies are identical. That means a Chinese and a Japanese player can play together seamlessly. This different yet connected quality becomes a perfect metaphor for two nations searching for common ground in a post-war world. The story begins in the 1920s, and a friendly game between Mr. Matsunami and Mr. Kwang has just started. Matsunami is a career player from Japan, currently visiting China. Kwang is a southern Chinese scholar known as the Go King of Jiangnan. It would have been a beautiful match had Kwang not been harassed by the police. As China slid into turmoil and the Japanese invasion loomed, Kwang decides to send his son Ming to Japan to study Go under Matsunami. After Matsunami departs the next day, they would not have a chance to finish the game until many decades later. I said it would be a beautiful game, but that was wishful thinking. By the 1920s, Go was already a professional sport in Japan, with institutions supporting full-time players. In China, that didn't happen until the 1980s. Kwang was good, but still a hustler. The film isn't shy about this either.
这是先父所写的，他老人家生前曾多次和日本棋手对弈，终于不能取胜。
A similar moment comes later when Ming, now in Japan, is bullied by classmates. Turns out, Ming keeps losing and keeps pestering for rematches, to the annoyance of the entire school. It was a reflection on how far ahead Japan was, not only in Go, but in social development. It was under this unequal power dynamic, Japan invaded China. From here, the story splits into 3 storylines. In China, Kwang and his family became refugees, losing their home to bombs. In the chaos, his wife and daughter are killed. In Japan, Matsunami's student is drafted into the army, only to die of illness aboard a transport ship. The student, also Ming's close friend, did not want to join the war. He has died for a decision he did not make. Meanwhile, Ming rises to the rank of Tensei. Afraid a Chinese man holding such a title may undermine Japanese morale in war, the authorities force him to naturalize or be executed as a spy. In this war, each person is broken in different ways. Originally started as a Chinese production, the film became a co-production with Japan as an effort to mend relations between the two nations. Because of this, the film explores the war's impact on both sides. That sounds stupid since one side was the aggressor, but please, stay with me. In a particularly powerful scene, Ming's Chinese and Japanese friends gathered for a dinner. Outside, Japanese crowds march in celebration of the siege of Nanking, ignorant of the atrocities unfolding. Ignorant because people and media are afraid to speak up, for it is illegal to undermine the war effort. This depiction of Japanese society fervently supporting the war feels like a fascist takeover, because it is. Before China was invaded, the good people of Japan had already lost a battle. Evil had taken them hostage, eroding the last traces of virtue from the society. Come this winter, we'll talk more about this topic. In the climax, Matsunami, now drafted into the military, reunites with Kwang in the most unpleasant of circumstances. They are forced by the officer to play a game for them. Refusal from either side means death. This war was not China against Japan, but fascism against humanity. In the end, when the war is finally over, these two stand on the Great Wall and resume the game by calling out notations.
下面一个字，在左上角，4、5，高挂。明白。5靠啊，5、6班，6、5向。
It is very emotional. Finally, let us tackle the title of this series and ask the question, what does Japan think of China? From all the films we have seen, China is often shown as a nation of grand history, the origin of knowledge. Hong Kong appears to be the center of culture. Even when Japan is made to be the villain, Japanese audiences still sided with Bruce Lee against the fascists who once controlled them. That is a lot to live up to, and yet that is not the hardest part. The hardest part is to be a friend, for the wounds of history runs deep in China, for Japan still wrestles with militant right-wing factions. Yet deeper still is the 1,000-year connection. One day, I'm certain, we'll be friends again.